Ladies and gentlemen, hello guys, welcome to the European Parliament, welcome to Brussels. We're at the Voxbox today discussing the European elections, very important, taking place between the 22nd and 25th of May, depending on the country where you live in. But when it comes to the history of democratic elections in the EU, it's all quite pessimistic. Generally, yes, people are not very interested. Only 43% voting last time, which of course quite low, and the lowest also in history of the elections, which started off in 1979. But there's one group of citizens, the young generation, a generation between 18 and 24, who didn't even vote that much. Only 30% of them went to cast their vote, which is of course a very, very low score. And the question, of course, may be, why is this the case? Is it lack of information, lack of interest in the elections and EU politics? Well, for that we're going to talk today here. So it's all meant for you young generation, first-time voters. We've invited 3 MEPs from 3 different parties sitting next to me, and they're all men, so I already failed when it comes to gender balance. I'm really happy they're all here. From a very diverse background, I have to say. First on my side, I have Philippe de Backer from the ALDE group and from the Flemish Liberal Democratic group, sitting in the Committee for Transport and other one, Economics. That's very good. And Pablo Zalba, welcome from Spain here in the EPP group of the European Parliament, and the Vice Chair of the Economic and Monetary Affairs Committee. Welcome.
Thank you.
On my last, a fellow Dutchman, because I'm also Dutch, Bas Eickhout from the Greens Party, also on the Committee for Environment. And on that, very busy, for example, lately on the framework for 2030 climate and energy policies. Yeah. And they're all very busy, so that's very good. But the problem is, though, you're not sitting in this chamber, in this house, because young voters voted for you. If you think about that, I think about 45 million voters are between 18 and 24. Only 30% of them voted for you. So how do you explain that? Maybe I start with you, Bas. How do you explain that last time, 2009, such a small amount of people actually casted their vote?
Yeah. Well, I think there are a number of reasons. First of all, of course, it's a general problem of politics. So it's not only European politics, it's also national, local elections. A lot of people they don't see really the value of why I would go out and vote. So that's a general political problem, I would say. Secondly, and that's what we all know, of course, is that European affairs, they are longer term. People feel it's a bit further away of what they are busy and working on a day-by-day basis. So why then go out then and vote? And I think the third problem is it's people do not really know what's going on here in this European Parliament. So if you only see it as a building where people are doing something, then the question is of course, why should I go out and vote? So I think those are the three. So it's a general political problem. It is of course more European. The issues are a bit further away. And the third one, European politics. It's mainly buildings for people, not people.
All right. Pablo, you are a person of flesh and blood. You represent Spanish citizens. Do you agree with that? I mean, are you so far away from the general public, and as well, especially from young generation? Of course, it's not very difficult to engage with social media, and they can talk to them via various sorts of media.
Yeah, overall I agree. I think it's a general problem that young people feel far away from politics. But I think and I hope that these elections will be different. Why should this election be different? I mean, I think the situation of this House has changed dramatically since the entry in force of the Lisbon Treaty. Now we are a real legislature chamber. We are in a key moment in Europe. We need more economic integration, more political integration, and more democratic legitimacy. And the way this process is going to be done will depend a lot of the result of the elections, of the coming elections. Yeah. And these elections, for the first time, we will elect also the next president of the European Commission.
Yeah.
Are these reasons enough to somehow attract young voters to the polls? I hope so, but I think it's going to be a difficult challenge.
Guys, to Philippe, are those political themes enough to draw between 18 and 24 years old to the European Parliament? Or what do we need? What do you need?
I broadly agree with what was said, but I would like to add a couple of points. I think that also the fact that in a democracy, it's not just casting your vote. I mean, casting your vote allows power to be shifted from one party to the other one, and this changes the course of history. This changes how legislation is made in the European Parliament, in all the parliaments across Europe. So going to vote is a crucial aspect of democracy. But of course, next to that, you have also other ways to express your democratic opinion. And I think for young people, it has become much more commonplace to express the democratic opinion outside of the classical democratic structures. And they are looking to that, and that they are trying to do that much more than in the past. Secondly, what I also would like to say is we are very harsh on ourselves. We try to go out there, we try to talk to people, we try to get the issues out there. But democracy also is not only about asking people to vote, they also have a responsibility within a democracy. And I think this is also something that is not enough said, that people also have the responsibility to participate in this democratic process to shape the course of a society, the way that legislation is made, the direction the society is going. And I think they're also, as a citizen, you also have a responsibility. So I think for young people, we have to make sure that their voice is being heard, but at the same time, they also have to find ways to express themselves within or outside the classical democratic processes.
Yes. Bas, I understand. Normally, of course, you get a lot of people come to the parliament. You speak to students. What do you tell them? Come on, let's go vote because it's important for your democratic behavior. What do you try to tell them?
First, maybe important, what I don't say is, oh, we do important work here. I mean, as soon as a politician is trying to sell that I'm doing important things here, then people already don't listen to you anymore. I think most important to tell is this is a political house. And there is a political debate. And that's what people sometimes don't see at the European level, that is a political debate. I mean, my colleague, he's from the Christian Democrats. So he's my opponent. He's from the Liberals. He is having other ideas on economic affairs. So we have discussions on it and we do not agree. Later on we drink a beer together, but during our political discussions we do not agree. And the vote in the end, the voter can determine the color of that parliament.
Yes.
And it is shifting the direction of lawmaking. I mean, I'm a green politician, so it's very clear I want to work towards a green economy. Well, clearly, if people think, hey, that's a good idea, make sure that my voice is bigger in the parliament because then it will be more in that direction. I mean, he's not so much of the green economy. So if you don't agree with that, vote for him and his voice will be stronger. I mean, that's the core of politics. And I have the feeling sometimes that people, they see it in their national parliament, they see it maybe in the local council, but the European Parliament is not perceived as a political house, and I think that's most important to stress.
Very good. So now we're going to go, you're going to have elections, you've already campaigns for yourself, for the groups. How do you make this clear that you are a national politician, but you also work in a parliament which have opposition parties, although in groups? Bit of a different structure, but still it goes EPP against Greens, ALDE against GUE, for example. How do you make that clear, that still it's actually you can vote for different positions in this house?
First of all, I agree with Bas. We have to let the people be aware, and especially the young people, that depending on the color of this house, Europe will go one direction to other direction, from an economic point of view, from an environmental point of view, from a social point of view, and that's the real challenge we have in the short term, to convince the people, to convince the young person the importance of the vote. How to do so? I think we have many tools from this kind of debates, social media tools, Facebook, Twitter. I mean, I try to meet as many people as possible, as many associations, whenever I am in my country, I have probably almost 10 meetings every day, and I think this is the challenge, to be very close to the people, to be with the people. I think
that's improved in your opinion since last election, since 2009, because actually there's been a commission report that they say, well, citizens or young citizens actually they are more interested about EU politics, so they may vote more.
I think for young people, if you see the Eurobarometer studies, I mean, people who are generally optimistic about Europe are mainly the young generation, so I think there's something to be hopeful about. And I think I agree that we have to make sure that there is a difference in ideology between the parties. Different parties make different choices and make sure that the society is run in a different way. And so I think that is always the core of politics. And people often only see the day-to-day politics. They say that they see us fighting about specific topics, but the core values remain in every party. For liberals, it's individual freedom, it's economic development. All these things are very core value to us, and they're less so for other parties. So in that respect, I think when I debate with young people, I often go back to that first principle approach, saying that why do you vote for a certain party? Why are you a socialist? Why are you a green? Why are you a liberal?
Yes.
And I think going back to those first principles at every political level, including the European one, is going to be much more important. And you see the results already. The votes that are being taken in Parliament are often left against right, and liberals often play in the European Parliament, for example, a very decisive role in this. And I think therefore making sure that one bloc or the other is getting more power in the European Parliament is determining the way things are going. And so going back to those first principles, ideology, that's how I always engage with young people.
Right, very good. And then another to be spoke about, the Commission President will be elected by the House. The different groups have set up their candidates, which they would like to see to run the Commission. Does it have any impact? Does it engage, you think, young citizens? When, for example, I don't want to downplay him, but Mr. Juncker, I don't think that he is the one, and it's your party, I'm so sorry, but he doesn't really have the edge, so to speak, in my opinion, for young citizens. Or do you disagree with that?
Well, I hope that it's not a matter of an image. It's a matter about ideas.
That's true, but isn't it, sorry to interrupt, isn't it also politics about why do you want to have a president if it's not about visual and about appearance?
I think it's a bad precedent if we are thinking so much or giving so much importance to the image. I think we have to debate about ideas, about the Europe we want in the future from a social point of view, from an economic point of view, from an environmental point of view, and who represents whether it is beautiful, is not beautiful, is it a male or a female. I think that, in my opinion, should not be the debate. The debate is about ideas.
That's for sure.
I mean, I understand that Juncker is not an attractive guy, but I mean,
I'm not
what do you
about
prefer? An
attractiveness.
attractive guy or an attractive ideas? I'm fighting for an attractive
I understand,
ideas.
but I was talking about in terms of whether or not they represent the old establishment. And I think it's okay if you can say that for Mr. Juncker and for many politicians, for which that's why I also invited you, because in my opinion you represent the new European parliamentarians and new politicians.
There are two things. I think the reason why we chose this process to get to a directly elected President of the Commission is to enhance the democratic accountability and the democratic process within the European Union. That's one step. But of course it's about ideas, it's about the different proposals that parties are putting out there, but it's also about implementing those ideas. People see us talking a lot, but in the end it's the result that counts. And I think this sets us apart as young politicians often. We are very result oriented. If I talk to my colleagues, we know how to get the job done in negotiations. And I think that is something that really sets a young generation of politicians also apart from an older generation. And of course in these elections you will see that the debates will be about the ideas and the ideological first principles of the different parties, but it's also a choice about who do you trust to run the Commission to get the job done, to get the proposals through the Parliament.
So it's becoming more politicized, that's for sure, right? You want to agree with that?
I mean, that is an important reason that the Commission, the President of the Commission is clearly more political, and that again here that it's a political fight and that your decision on your party decides which color the Commission also gets. But I do agree with you that I must say, so it's a good step that we are now more deciding on who's going to become the President of the Commission, but I do agree that the candidates of the bigger parties are, I would say, a bit disappointing. And I'm not talking about how they look, but it is a bit old style European policy making, and they have been very long also in policy making. So it's Juncker for the Christian Democrats, it's Schulz for the Social Democrats, it's Verhofstadt for the Liberals. It's a bit. I mean, they can't even understand why there are people critical on the EU. For them, EU is such a thing they've been working on for years that they are surprised. And I think the Greens did it differently. Let's be fair. The Greens did it differently. We had open primaries. We let people decide. You decide who is going to be our president, who is going to be our candidate for the presidency. Of course, the Greens always come up with two candidates, male and female. And it was interesting to see that the two who won was José Bové from France, an older guy you could say, but also Ska Keller, a young female from Germany. Yes. So in that sense, that duo is a nice mixture of a new sound what Europe can hear.
Right. He didn't agree. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Yes, but we have primary elections also. Eh? Do not forget that.
I didn't want to.
Of course. I mean, we get finally two candidates. We had three candidates. Finally, we got two candidates, and finally, in a secret vote, we elected Mr. Juncker. So we got also
Yeah,
primaries.
but that was not a
Right.
primary.
No,
but
I didn't wanna-
I agree that you at least had two
You were
candidates
so
where you could decide on.
Yeah.
I mean, the Liberals were so nervous with their two candidates that they had a backdoor
Let's do the-
deal.
let's turn to the Liberals.
We have also a double ticket.
Yeah, no,
We have
you
a very
managed it
strong-
by
we have a very
because you
strong-
were
The
afraid
very
of
fact-
Lane and
the very
of
fact I want to
Daniel
talk about
Hofstad.
Mr. President it's a novelty, and it's more. You can see it works. Do you see it work? It works
Yeah,
perfectly
yeah, yeah.
fine. We won debate,
Good
and now
start.
you can see people against people because you have some frontmen. You've Guy Verhofstadt going to run for them. I don't want to talk about. If you want to say something, it's okay. Because you're not agreeing with Bas, with the fact that they represent the old establishment and agreeing with me.
No, but I also think that you need people with a clear vision about Europe, and I think if there's one member of parliament who has been very vocal about his
That's true,
future,
that's Cohn-Bendit, that's
then it's Guy Verhofstadt. It's very clear that he has been leading the charge against the decisions made by the Commission, made by the Council, advocating a new Europe. And I think this is also the reason why he was chosen as a lead candidate for the Liberal Party. So
Right.
in a democratically process within our party. So I think it's about ideas, it's about implementing those ideas, and it's about creating a more politicized environment for the future of the European Union.
So in that sense, it will help for all of you in the end, hopefully. There's one
It's
group.
putting a face on
But
Europe.
that's the idea. But there is
Yeah.
one group of politicians who also get quite a lot of people's attention, and that's of course the Eurosceptics, or at least from either the left or the right, who only think, of course, it's a very easy argument. No, we don't want the EU, we want to get out of the EU. This is not a novelty, but the very fact that they're trying to get aligned, that of course is kind of a novelty. How do you play as the established parties with this no vote of possibly one group to be in the EP in 2014?
Campaigning on the ideas, making sure that people understand that the solutions that they put forward, if they already put forward solutions, because often they're just criticizing stuff that they're even not themselves a part of. So in that respect, debating the ideas. I think in a democracy, when you disagree with a certain party or a certain person about his ideas, you debate those ideas and make crystal clear to the public that the solution that they propose, retreating between national barriers, not trying to tackle climate change, for example, at the European level, not trying to tackle the economic crisis at the European level. I think this is something that young people especially understand very well. They look to the world in a very open way. The borders, the frontiers are gone. The world is at their feet. Do they really believe that retreating behind your national barriers, what people like Farage or Le Pen are putting forward, that will be the solution to our problems? I don't think so, and I think a lot of young people would also disagree with that.
Right.
So I think this international aspect, I think, is going to be very, very important for us to push and to make crystal clear to the public that the solutions put forward by the far left and the far right are not the solutions that we are waiting for.
Are you agreeing with that, Pablo? The very fact
I
that
agree
the
that
current
the fight
generation
must
is
be
looking
about
is about
ideas.
internationalization, globalization. We don't see borders anymore. So the draw from Eurosceptics for the young generation is minimal or at least very small. Do you agree with that? And you can
My
make
concern
your
is that
comments.
in the next European Parliament, in my opinion, I don't think these Eurosceptics are not gonna have much political power, but much mediatic power. This mediatic power somehow is gonna have an influence in the young people, and they can somehow believe that Europe in reality is Eurosceptics and is gonna probably be the opposite. That is my concern. And the idea is, as Philip said, to debate with ideas. And this is the challenge, because probably our ideas are not so mediatic as the Eurosceptic ideas. And we have to find the formula to somehow be sure that the young people, generations receive a message. Because at the end,
they're also right.
regarding
Sometimes
Europe, I
things
think
are going right.
the three MEPs seated in this table somehow agree in many overall issues regarding Europe.
Yeah, but
Well, you at least agree that
Yeah.
for some
Oh, yeah, it's
for
true.
some issues you cannot have only national solutions. So that's
Yeah.
the thing that's you want to work
This is
in
one of
EU
the common
supranational
points, yeah.
politics. But
Yeah.
first of all, I mean, this media they are media very capable to express themselves. They are able. Mr. Farage
Yeah.
is one of the best narrators in the European Parliament.
Yeah,
How
he's
do you
good fun.
He's good fun to watch.
Yeah.
How do you tackle him with only ideas if he is so able to catch them with
Well,
only one
first of all,
single
there are
sentence?
debating skills, of course, and also Nigel Farage. He's great fun, but then if you really start to attack him on the ideas, then most of the time he's a bit silent after 5 minutes. I mean, after he has done his trick of jokes, then it becomes pretty vague and empty. But I think I would not necessarily say that the Farage people, the Eurosceptics, they're not the problem. I mean, I think it's also good that there will be a representation of the people who don't want any further European integration into this house of the European Parliament. That's how democracy works. So I welcome them. It's very good. However, the problem is more with the centre parties who become nervous. See what's happening in the UK, where the Tories are getting so nervous about Nigel Farage that he's moving in their direction. And that's the mistake they make, because then what's happening is that, do you think that Nigel Farage then say, oh, thank you, Cameron, for moving in my direction, now I agree with you? No, of course not. He goes further. So from that moment, Cameron is now drawn into a dead-end street in moving further and further away. And that's exactly what's happening in a lot of countries. The centre parties become nervous, they move in that direction, they will never outcompete in extremism.
No.
So they will always drawn further. And then it becomes a problem that the centre parties then have usually double tongue. They speak differently in their national parliament than how they speak in the European Parliament. And then it becomes a problem.
Yes,
First,
Philippe, and
one,
then
one-
Pablo.
one more thing I would like to add is also that some of the issues that are being addressed by these parties are real issues also. And I think we should not shy away from them. If there's anything going wrong, for example, misuse of funds within the European budget, we just have. I am as fierce as them, even more fierce, in trying to find a solution for this. So we should not go out of the way and try to defend the indefensible. There are some things which are going wrong also at the European level. There's no perfect world. So I think that we really have to understand also some of the issues that they address. We should also provide solutions for that and make the system work better than it does today.
As long as they don't want to go only out of the system, which of course will make working together quite impossible.
Again, out of the system for them, it's very easy, because then they will start the same game over again in their own national parliament. So it's never enough. And I agree with Bas on this. I think you cannot be distracted by them in a sense that they try to lure you away from your core issues. I think the Liberal Party has always been a very pro-European, pro-integration party. I think we should stay that way.
Pablo, please.
I fully agree with this analysis. I think it's a very big mistake when center parties try to compete with extremist parties. At the end, the only thing they achieve is campaigning in favor of those parties. I think that in the case of Britain, the Conservative Party is campaigning in favor of UKIP. What is going to be the result? That UKIP may win the elections.
They go for the real thing.
Absolutely.
Always. We're almost done, which is maybe a good thing or a bad thing to remember. We're going to have a little round. Which sort of themes, when you look at your own policy interests, may be of interest for the young generation? Starting first, you are on an environment committee. You can also do something else, but I mean, that's your main committee you're in, so please.
Yeah, but I would not start with environment right away, because one of the biggest challenges of Europe is youth unemployment. That is really the biggest issue that is on the table for European policymakers. And clearly, then of course the green economy agenda comes clearly right away. I mean, what you see now is a lot of old-style political solutions for the current economic crisis. I mean, we have a discussion on austerity or investing, and if you go for investing, usually the Social Democrats, they do it in the same grey infrastructure, grey old economy. What the Greens say, you need to invest, you need to create a new chances, you need to create a new economy, and please make an economy which is more environmentally friendly and also making us less dependent of fossil imports from countries like Russia. So that agenda is really attaching all the issues together, and I think that is really delivering the jobs for our youth. That's most important, but please let's do it on the basis of a new economy which is making us less dependent of Putin. I think that core is the core of the green agenda.
All right. Although I do like the Russian anthem, is a great anthem. For you, Philippe, the new economy, do you agree with?
It's part of it, of course it's part of it. But I think that what especially we need to do here is to focus on the economy. We're still in economic shambles. As long as we don't get that economic system running again, creating economic growth, youth unemployment and unemployment in general will not disappear. So the first focus should be on growth. And growth can only be sustainable on the long run if it's no longer dependent on debt and excessive risk-taking. So I think this is something that for the next years will be high on the agenda, to enable entrepreneurs to create those new enterprises, to enable young people to start working in those new enterprises. And I think it should come out of the economy and the people themselves. I think one of the crucial themes for me for the next couple of years will be also engagement. People will also have to take responsibility for their actions, for what they do, and engage within a society to create a society Bas is describing. I don't believe it is a top-down approach. It should be really a bottom-up approach where people take their fate in their own hands, create the jobs that we need, and grow the economy.
They'll work out. Pablo, the last word is yours.
Well, I mean, I think I agree that the main priority next term and in the coming months is obviously to fight against youth unemployment, especially in my country that is triple. We have triple figures. How to fight? Green economy is an option, but it's not the option. It's an option. Obviously, financial stability is another tool to get it. SMEs, support entrepreneurship. Credit is absolutely key that companies get and families get access to credit, youth guarantee. So there is not just one tool to fight against youth unemployment. Somehow you have to look for the different ingredients that can accelerate the job creation.
Yes. A lot of room for debate, especially on this one. Look, we have 3 MEPs here, and they are very clearly also opposing each other, but at least they're in favor of a European solution, EU-level solution.
Yep.
Thank you very much all for watching. From Brussels, back to you. And what's left is just go to vote between the 22nd and 25th of May in your home country, and hopefully you can make a very justified decision. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being here, and
You're welcome.
good luck
Thank
in the
you.
campaigns. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.